Hi.
Recently, I was selecting switches for our new house construction, and because there's such a vast array of options available on the market, I'd like to share with you what I ultimately chose and, of course, the reasons why. So, I have decided on the Aqara H2 EU switches. And right here, we have specifically the shutter switch, which is designed for the purpose of controlling your window blinds. Then over here, you'll find the light switch, which comes equipped with two separate buttons for managing your lighting fixtures. And finally, we also have the dimming switch, which is specifically intended for controlling any dimmable light sources you might have in your home. And I had my electrician prepare a special testing panel for me because I really wanted to try out everything first to see exactly how it functions in practice before I purchase all those specific buttons for the entire new construction and then have them installed there. So let's take a moment to examine how this actually functions. Now these light bulbs right here, they are what you'd call classic traditional light bulbs. They're definitely not smart bulbs. The only thing to mention is that this specific one on the right actually supports dimming functionality, but other than that, they are just completely standard, ordinary light bulbs. All of that automation is essentially right here in these buttons. And why did I actually decide to choose these particular buttons? My main requirement was that even if the smart home system failed, it would still be possible to control the main lights in the house, so I wouldn't be completely dependent on that smart home. And Aqara's buttons do exactly that. They operate in the following manner. Some of these buttons actually have built-in relays, which means they are not dependent on the smart home system itself, and some of the other buttons do not have any relays. They are controlled solely through the smart home system, and at the same time through that smart home you can also control those buttons with the relay. So let's take a look at how they work step by step. This is the button for operating the blinds, basically controlling them up and down. This one actually has a relay. These two buttons here, they don't have relays. They are controlled exclusively through the smart home system. So if I press this button, it's simulated here on the testing panel that the blind is going down and, up. It also descends in the same manner. In practical terms, the operation is such that the blind motor merely receives an activation signal and then commences its movement, continuing its descent until it reaches its full extension or until you interrupt its motion by pressing the opposite button. These particular buttons are fully automated, so we can now manage them entirely through our smart home system, dictating precisely what actions we desire to take place. For example, we could have a completely different light illuminate, and then perhaps after 5 seconds it will simply turn itself off, or we can just turn it back on again, exactly like this. And with another button, we can turn it off right away before those 5 seconds pass. These buttons also support various events. For example, I have a long press event set up here, and they also support double clicks. We have buttons right here for controlling the lights. They are designed to work in such a manner that these upper positions, they switch the light. With one press I turn it on, and with another press I turn it off. With these specific buttons here, it's possible via the smart home system to deactivate the relay connection, so they will then function identically to the ones below, which do not possess a relay and are controlled exclusively by the smart home. For these particular buttons, you can actually configure beyond just a single click, also a double click or even a long press. If I actually disconnect the relay connection for those upper buttons, I'll still be able to control it in exactly the same way. However, if I actually leave the particular relay switched on, then only the single click functionality is employed, because for the double click operation, it simply doesn't make any logical sense. The light would actually blink for you if you were to press it twice, right? So here, any kind of event can be configured through a smart home system. It can really do anything you want. And then over here, we have the dimming switch. It's typical. You control it using the scroll wheel. The brightness, you can turn it off, for example, by pressing and then turn it back on with another press. There was a small noticeable delay that was quite apparent. The reason is purely, one could say, a matter of hardware design and how those dimming lights actually function at low voltage. It's a characteristic of the lights themselves, not of the button. To conclude, I just wanted to mention that I have these specific buttons fully integrated into my smart home environment, powered by Home Assistant. And the configuration process was actually quite straightforward. I'm running it all through MQTT, specifically so I can easily intercept all the incoming data. Events like a double click and a double tap. If I had this integrated directly using the standard Zigbee integration, it actually wouldn't send these particular events, but through the MQTT protocol, it works perfectly fine. If you happen to be interested in learning more about this specific topic, please do let me know, and I would then record a dedicated separate video on it. Alright then, thank you very much. I hope you have a good day.